Welcome to Caring Community with your hosts, Jay and Diane West. In this community, creative initiatives are welcomed. A culture of transformation is normal, and miracles are expected. Welcome to Caring Community.
Hello, I'm Jay.
And I'm Diane.
And this is Caring Community. Welcome to our show, and it's a pleasure to have our good friend, Dr. Chip Anderson. Welcome to the show.
Welcome.
Thank you very much. Thanks for inviting me.
You know, Chip is with Christ for the Cities International, Christ for the City International. I always interchange that, cities, yeah. Because you are in so many cities around the world. I just want to pluralize it and prophesy and make it lots more than it even is now. So
yeah, we're in over 39 cities.
39 cities, and how many nations are you in?
17.
17 nations. So I want to do a little history with you first, things I don't even know. First of all, I know you have a doctorate degree, and I've never asked you, what's it in?
It's a Doctor of Ministry and Missions.
Okay, where did you get it?
I got it at Columbia International.
Columbia, where is that located?
Down in Columbia, South Carolina.
Columbia, South Carolina. Okay, I want to make sure, international, it sounds like it could be Columbia,
right.
South America.
Right,
You know?
yeah.
So maybe it was on the Columbia spaceship floating around, who knows. So, so anyway, good to have you here. Give us a little history of your personal life. Not dating back to third grade, but you were in ministry for a while, and then you transitioned, and how you learned about Christ for the City and so on, and then we'll ask some more direct questions. So.
Yeah, my wife and I actually grew up over in Ames, Iowa, attended Iowa State University. We came to faith through the Navigator ministry over at Iowa State, started to attend our local church, which was a Methodist church at that time, and we were working with the youth as youth pastors there, as well as getting ready to go into our careers with education. She was going to be elementary ed, and I was going to be industrial arts. And in the midst of that, God called us to the mission field, ended up in seminary, and down on the mission field in 1982.
We're down, where?
Costa Rica.
Costa Rica?
Costa Rica, Central America. And then from there, we were 18 years living there as a family, raised our family on the mission field.
Wow.
I was elected president in 2000 of Christ for the City International, and moved the family back here to Omaha.
Okay, so Christ for the City is based here in Omaha, is that correct?
Yes, the international office is here.
Where were they before that?
Miami, Florida.
Okay, why did they choose to come out of the tropical area and come up here to the
We had some
Midwest?
people on the board and other friends here in the city that really wanted the international headquarters to move here. And so the board decided to move it here in 1997.
Okay, are you fluent in Spanish?
Well, fluent. Yes, I speak a lot, yes.
I don't remember if I've heard you speak Spanish or not, so I just...
Yeah, probably
so,
not.
Is there a difference between, say, Mexican Spanish and Costa Rican Spanish?
Yes, there is. And even within countries, there'll be accents. So just like in the United States, we'll have Southern accents and West Coast accents. Those countries have the same going on in Spanish.
Of course, you and I both know Pastor Jim Hart, and he was raised on the mission field in Brazil, and they speak Portuguese there.
Yes, they do.
But because he speaks Portuguese, he can also understand. It's close enough to Spanish. He can
communicate.
It is.
So Spanish is what they say, a Latin-based language. So if you learn Spanish, a lot of times you can pretty easily pick up Portuguese and quite a bit of French and Italian.
Right.
And you can certainly read quite a bit in those languages as well, because the Latin roots are the same.
Interesting.
Yeah.
So in your walk, in this transition, and I mean, you've done so many things. You've been so many places. You work with me on Transformation Omaha. Actually, I work with you. Anyway, because you're carrying the load, it seems like. What excites you? What turns you on spiritually? When you see something happen in one of your bases or whatever? What is it that really tugs at your heart and go, wow, I'm excited about that? So.
I love to see people mobilized into exploring the gifts that God has given them. So a good example is my own life as a university student trying to find my way in the world. But I wanted to draw closer to the Lord. I didn't want to just pray. I wanted to really do something that was going to have an impact. And people came around us and opened doors for us when we didn't necessarily deserve it, and allowed us to start into ministry. And I really enjoy doing that thing for other people, be they foreigners that we serve over in a slum area. Young people are trying to find their way in the life, and they want the Lord to walk with them, and opening doors for them to fulfill their dreams is just incredibly exhilarating.
Do you have any bases or any that are working directly with universities presently?
With universities,
Yeah.
yeah, there's the base in Costa Rica.
Okay.
We have a university that actually set up a science lab in
Okay.
one of our community transformation centers.
Because you mentioned that was doors began to open for you when you were in a university and young
Yes.
people, so I just was curious if that was an
Yes.
intention of Christ for the City. So,
Yeah.
if you were to capsulize the vision for Christ for the City, what does that look like?
We really enjoy helping people transform cities by transforming lives. And that comes on a multitude of planes. So, of course, there's the spiritual dimension for us is like number one. So a person's spirituality, they're drawing closer to God, we know that God's calling them, and so that's number one. But then we also want to give them the tools to have a successful life and family. So vocational training, keeping them educated, helping them in the areas that they need help in.
Mm-hmm.
How do you do that as far as in the spiritual? Do you have Bible studies? Do you have?
Yes, we do. So in our community transformation centers, we offer a multitude of programs, and there'll be Bible studies that are involved at each age level. So children, mothers, and even elderly that come are offered Bible studies. They're also offered prayer and counseling. And then even if it's a sewing program or something, we start with devotional time. We get in, we have a verse, we have a word, and then we always take prayer requests for them as well. And we pray for the people. And we don't care where they're from or what they do or what they've done. We just bring them to the Lord.
Mm-hmm. So it's like this is a daily thing. I mean, this is what
Yeah.
we do.
Yeah, our community
it's not a-
transformation centers are open 7 days a week. There's always something going on in them.
What does a
Very cool.
transformation center look like?
It can be a building, maybe one that we own, or maybe one we're borrowing or renting. And in it, we put in a multitude of programs that the community has told us that they need.
How do you go about finding out what they need? I mean, who do you go to?
Usually we come by invitation of maybe an association of pastors,
Okay.
or maybe we know some of the government officials, and they've asked us, would you please come in and help us? And then we come in and we kind of do a survey. And we ask the different areas that are involved in the community, educational area, the government, of course, the police, even the gangs. And we ask them, what do you feel is the greatest felt need of your community? And we're here to help you. God sent us to help you, and we want to help you in some way. How would that look like?
Wow.
And then we start small, and then we mobilize volunteers into each of the areas of trying to meet felt needs.
So I'm thinking like in some of these countries that don't have as many medical opportunities as we do. Is that an area that you also help in and cover?
Yeah, several of our bases have medical clinics and dental clinics in them.
Do you have short-term missionaries from the United States then that go to these areas to help, or do you just do you raise
Yes.
up people from the area there to do the work?
Well, the bulk of the workload is actually carried on by the nationals themselves. So the medical clinics are staffed by national doctors that have their licenses locally. Now, short-term teams, yes, but for us, short-term teams are really important because they really encourage the locals to do more impact in their communities. And if there's a medical group or a medical student that wants to come, then we place them under national leadership working.
I know you do I don't know what you call it, you've invited me, I've never gone yet, but you do these exploratory trips like to Costa Rica to take people there to see all your bases and see what's going on. Tell our audience what that looks like and how that happens, and
Sure.
some information about that.
Well, we have these operations in like 17 countries. We offer vision tours to countries of interests. So that usually takes at least 5 or 6 people that are wanting to go to a country. And usually, because it's their first time visiting, we put them up in a nice hotel, and they'll spend their days going around and seeing the various projects and community transformation centers of the base. with the idea that they're going to go back and recruit groups or other individuals to come down and to partner with us to make an impact.
How successful is that recruitment?
Yeah, very good,
It
very
is?
good. A lot of people nowadays, they really want to come and see and take their own pictures and get to know the national directors and national people firsthand before they're going to make a commitment. So those trips have been very good.
So what, if people that have been to Costa Rica, because I know you've invited me on that one, and
Right.
that's an interest for me, and we'll explain that in a bit. What do people say is the highlights? If they say, here's the top 2 highlights of going to Costa Rica, what are they?
I would say that people come back and tell us that the motivation of the nationals themselves to solve their own problems is something that very much surprises them about our organization. We seem to be able to do a really good job of that. And then they also comment on the quality of our leadership. A lot of our leadership in most of these countries, they're all nationals. Then there's a national board and national director. And the national directors are very entrepreneurial, very, on fire for God Christians.
Right.
And that's the second thing that really impacts them a great deal too.
So are there other countries that you do this in as well?
Yes,
Besides Costa Rica, and you
Yeah.
take people to other countries?
yes.
Okay.
So, for example, we have 3 countries in Africa, Zimbabwe, Niger, and Mali. And people can go over there and serve with us and serve under the nationals. And then, of course, we're in like 11 countries in Latin America. And then we also have several partnerships that we have in Northeast India, up in the Nagaland and Assam regions.
Wow. How long are those trips usually?
All of our trips are customized according to the needs and gifts of the people.
Okay.
And so, we laugh that, we don't really want to take an accountant and put them in a clown suit if they are not comfortable. So we interview the groups as to what they feel like God's gifted them to do, and then we try to match them up with which country and need best fits that. Sometimes the people come to us with a country already in mind. I want to go to Argentina, and I want to serve your base in Argentina. And we'll call the base, and we'll customize the trip for the individual or for the church group that goes.
So they're not just seeing what's going on, they're actually doing some things while they're there too?
Right. The vision tours are kind of taste and see and come and look. But then when they go back, it's all work.
Right, when they go back. But on the vision tour, are they allowed to do anything on that tour? Do they
Yeah, on some of the tours, the people on the tour will do like 1 day of service at one of the projects. Usually we'll have something special going on while we're there in the country, and so we'll program a day of service in as well.
Does the service include anything spiritual, or is it all physical?
Depends on the group. A lot of times we'll have pastors, and because we work with alliances of pastors, we'll have a coffee with all the pastors of the slum. And having a guest come from another country is a big deal to them, and so they'll show up. We'll have 30 or 40 pastors show up to get to see the guy from the United States or Canada or Europe.
Boy, this is a new side I didn't even know about. The coffee. I'm like, I love coffee, and Costa Rican coffee is really good. So I'm still looking forward to that happening someday. So
Yeah.
So do you lead all these tours, or do you have other people that help lead?
No. There's a presidential vision tour. Those are the ones that I lead myself. But in general, we just do vision tours, and then we'll have people on the field that are trained and ready to receive them.
So what's the average cost of these tours, would you say? Because Africa is going to cost a whole lot more than Costa Rica,
Oh yeah.
obviously.
So the price doesn't include airfare, but usually it's around $700 for 5 days.
Okay. Is that including the meals too, or?
Yeah, all your transportation, all your meals.
I don't know how you can do it for that cheap. So.
Yeah.
So-
No. Well, we do. I mean, the bases have really good relationships with good, safe, secure hotels. And so we can offer a really quality experience. And it's intense. I mean, you land one day and we move, go around to the projects and see what's going on, and then
You get your rest on the airplane. If
that's
you can,
right.
If you can
Or
rest on an airplane.
if people want to stay, and we've had this happen, people can stay an extra day or two, and they want to go see a beach or they want to go to see something special, and we'll make those arrangements on the side for them to go have some fun.
Really? Oh, that's nice. So.
Yeah.
So tell us some things about Christ for the City just in Omaha. I know you want to talk about Urban Plunge, and because that's a ministry that you've launched, and I know it doesn't just happen here, it happens in other cities. So, or you can talk about something else.
Well, Urban Plunge operates in 7 cities around the United States. Probably our strongest place is here in Omaha, followed by Dallas, Texas. And the idea is to mobilize especially junior and senior high kids in churches to go out and get to know the 501c3s that are impacting and helping to transform the city. So out of, let's say, 1,500 kids, we probably have 500 or so that come here to Omaha from the whole region.
Wow.
And they'll come in and they'll start Friday night with some service projects, 1 or 2. And then Saturday all day, they'll be going around to different 501c3s. And then on Sunday, we take them to a church that's not of their own.
Right.
So here in Omaha, that would be somewhere like a Salem Baptist Church or something.
Yeah,
And
you've actually
so-
brought 2 groups to our church, and
Uh-huh.
we're definitely not. The first group you brought was from Lincoln, and they were all Lutheran.
Yeah.
And I actually have a Lutheran background, so there was a connect for us there, but our church was radically different from what they are used to. So.
And that's really attractive. Youth pastors want to expose their kids to what God is doing in the city and how is he doing it.
Right.
And so when they're on the Urban Plunge, we really want the 501c3 to tell their God story.
Right.
Not just their feel-good Rotary story. We want them to tell the God story. Why did God call you to do what you're doing now? And what's that been like for you? Because we want to inculcate vision for the future into the lives of these kids. So during the Urban Plunge program, we also have kind of a devotional for them to walk through, which is always pointing them back to God. What is God telling you about what you saw today or what you just experienced? Then they have debrief time as well. The whole idea is that what is God speaking into your life through these experiences?
Well, Diane and I both experienced one of your Urban Plunge teams when we had our park outreach, the first park outreach in South Omaha.
Yeah.
And all those kids were from rural Kansas, as I recall.
Yeah.
They were from farms and small towns in Kansas, and they came up to experience urban life in Omaha, and we got the privilege of working with them for 2 or 3 hours at that park that day. So
it's kind of funny the stories you hear, because for a lot of the kids like that, Omaha is the big bad city,
right,
crime-ridden,
yeah.
no hope, don't go near it kind of a thing. And then they come here and they go, no, there's a lot of God people that are doing a lot of great things
right,
Yeah.
in the
Cool.
city. It's not dangerous or
Right.
as crime-ridden as they've been led to believe.
right. And I think that's true almost anywhere. We heard the same thing about Dallas before we moved to Dallas.
Yeah.
And we
Yeah.
lived in Dallas for 3 years, and it wasn't that bad. So.
Do you have any specific testimonies from any kids that Urban Plunge
Yes.
really changed their lives?
Yeah. We've got stories of people that have come here, and one of the facets in what we challenge them about is, whatever God shows you here, he wants you to take back home and do something with it, back wherever you live. And so we've had several stories of kids especially who have seen like food distribution programs, and then they've actually felt called to go back to their own town and do something for food distribution. In the case I'm thinking of, like a trailer park. And so this kid from high school rallied a bunch of the people from Urban Plunge and his social networks, and they got together and they did a food drive for this poor trailer park area, and then they went and distributed food.
Oh, that's sweet.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
really, that's a wonderful thing. When people experience something firsthand and it motivates them to then, it might be different, it might look different, but they got an idea and they step out in faith and network their friends
Yeah.
and maybe get some resources and financial help and actually go do something, and we see that, and we see it a lot more today, but we see a lot of people stepping out and trying new things to help people,
Yeah.
And just to give you an example, a friend of mine here in town who heads up all the highways in our area. He takes care of all the highways in Sarpy County, Douglas County, Bellevue, Omaha. One of the issues he brought up to me is he's in charge of homeless people that are camping out next to the road, or at interchanges or whatever. And he was asking for advice because there's more and more people who are homeless who are begging for money during the daytime and then sleeping under the bridge at night, and they get back up and they're begging for money again. you know, and how to handle all that, the safety concerns alone, you know, and issues, and
You're right.
and sanitary conditions, and so on. The list just, you know, goes on and on. So in different cities, different places, people are getting ideas. Hey, how I know people here in town who just carry several bags in their little bag, large 20, whatever they call them, baggies, you know, 20 gallons of water, and they have a bottle of water, a few snack bars, you know, maybe a phone card or something, and they'll just give that instead of giving money. They'll give that to somebody who's begging for money on the side of the road. So
Yeah.
we need to be creative, and you guys are so creative at Christchurch Cities. Tell us about some of the creative ideas that you've done.
Well, the whole thing we try to do is maintain a posture of trying to be sensitive to the needs of the community we're called to help. And so inculcating that into our teams and our leaders is a big part of my job. And then really helping them to be creative and find new ways to do things. You know, a lot of times it doesn't necessarily take money. So a lot of United States thinking on social issues a lot of times revolves a little too much around money. They think, well, if we don't have the money, we can't do anything. Well, that's really not true. And especially when you go into other countries around the world, that's probably one of the things they really don't have. And so what you do have is you have a lot of human will and vision, and you have to open up those doors of creativity to help them to find out where their passions are, because we feel like the Holy Spirit blows where he wills, but he also calls. And even if you don't have the resources, he's already gone before you, and there are resources that are there. We just need to go find them. So, for example, we had a lady that was a professional vocational educational teacher in the area of sewing. A nice job, climbing the ladder, doing great, but spiritually very unfulfilling. She loved the Lord, couldn't talk about God in her classrooms, of course. Mm-hmm. She came to us almost 15 years ago, if not more, gave up all of that to help us to serve in the slums. Wow. And her whole thing was to teach these poor women who had literally next to nothing how to make a shirt, how to make pants, even how to make suit coats. And the way she did it was she taught them how to take apart something that they already had, like a shirt, and cut out using newspapers as a pattern, and then re-sewing their own shirt, and then how to size the shirt. Wow. That's an example of creativity that to me is just a beacon of hope. So, you know, far from needing a lot of money, we just need to open doors and really release people into their calls.
Right. Now you mentioned to me before, and you've alluded to it briefly here, about gangs and stuff, and most big cities do have gang and have gang activity. But you talked about some sort of a revival or something happening with some gangs somewhere. You want to talk about that a little bit? Yeah,
that's a cool story because it was really unexpected. So Christchurch City International is working with a pastoral association in one of the slum areas around San Jose, Costa Rica. And so the pastoral association, of course they want people coming into their churches and stuff, so they planned a big crusade and they planned it for like 3 or 4 nights. And they brought in a stage, the lights, the bands, they even brought a speaker from the US. And it was a great success. They had 4,000 or 5,000 people come every night. And so people were coming forward for prayer. God was healing people. There were really great testimonies going on. On all respects, it was a great crusade. Then on the last night, the director of the crusade, who was the president of the alliance, he got a tap on the shoulder from one of the ushers and said, hey, you know, Pedro back here, he really wants to talk to you. And the guy says, well, who's Pedro? And I'm busy. Yeah. And so he got busy, and so another time and 3 times he finally says, which Pedro are you talking about? And he says, the Pedro that heads up the Devil's Gang. Well, so the pastor turns around and says, well, okay, well, where is he? Well, they're back in the bushes. He says, what do you mean they? He says, well, Pedro and the whole gang are back in these bushes over here. And so the pastor goes over and he talks to Pedro, and Pedro comes out and he says, you know, we've been listening to this guy for the last 3 nights. Is what he's saying about spiritual renewal, is that true? Is it possible that God can cleanse us of our sins even if we've killed people and done terrible things? Wow. The pastor says, absolutely. And he says, but what are you guys doing here? You're back in the bushes. Come on out. And he says, well, actually, We were waiting for you all to go so we could steal all the lights and sound equipment for the gang.
Oh my goodness.
And out of that has grown revival among the gangs in Costa Rica for the last 4 years. And this last weekend, they had an extreme camp, and it's probably been about the 12th extreme camp where they've done these camps for gang people, because there's men, women, and children involved in the gangs. And it's a time of revival, prayer, and of personal healing, and of course coming to the Lord. And at the end of the camp, there's a baptism.
Wow.
And in this particular camp, they baptized about 150 people.
So, I mean, this is an incredible wow, because
It is.
to think about gang activity in any city being touched by Christians, pastors, pulling together a revival, an outdoor arena, theater, whatever, stage on the sidewalk type of crusade, and some people there who are in gangs kind of get hungry for God, just like our previous guest in the previous show was addicted to meth, got hungry for God, and got free from meth. It doesn't really matter what you're involved in terms of something negative or something dark. God has a way of turning it around and reversing the curse, reversing what has already happened, and bringing new life out of it.
Exactly. And here again, it wasn't anything planned. It really was just God doing what God does and drawing people close to himself.
Right. So we have about 2 minutes left. You want to wrap it up, say anything that's on your heart before we close, and something that's just for the audience that you...
Well, you know, Christ for the City is a mobilizing organization, and I just know that there's a lot of people that want to do something impactful for God in this nation and other nations around the world too. And if that's the case, you know, please come and visit us at our website, which is www.cfci.org, and check us out. We've got lots of opportunities for people to serve, but you also just have to come with an idea that you really are going to serve. So check us out, come and join us on an urban plunge, come on a vision tour. Maybe Jay and Diane would like to lead one someday and bring a whole group down. We can customize the dates.
I think we should do a vision tour to Walt Disney World. If they can help gangs, we can help Disney too. So, real quickly, we still got about half a minute. Name, because a lot of people we watch around the United States. Name the cities that, if you can, where you have bases in the United States.
In the United States, so we'll be down in Dallas, Texas, Omaha, Chicago, Lincoln, Sioux City, Des Moines, Iowa, and pretty soon, God willing, in Los Angeles.
Oh,
right, and maybe you're just watching and you're saying, man, I'd love to have a base in our big city. We could. I'm sure you would work with somebody to establish that as well.
Yes, we work with people that way.
So Chip, great to have you here. Let me shake your hand. Thanks a lot for coming out. God bless you.
Thank you.
And we love Christ for Cities. He works with us with Transformation Omaha. And every time he brings a guest up to town, he takes me out to some lavish barbecue restaurant. It's always delicious. So you need to get acquainted with Christ for the City. You need to link in, at least look at their website, consider supporting them if you feel led. They're doing a great ministry. They're doing a great work. And you will be so happy, you'll be thrilled to see the kingdom of God being expanded in your area, your network, your influence, and helping to change lives. So Diane and I thank you for watching our show. Hope you'll tune in next time. And this is Caring Community. Thank you, and God bless you.
God bless.